we are once again. I'm not wearing my hat. So, you know that we're we're over here, and you know what's weird is that people, you know, the infiltration of a psyops occurring in your town, local or citywide, can happen. But like the thing is that it's the nuisance of like, you know, once everybody's become compromised in the situation like that, then you know, you see like you become like a outsider to information warfare. You know, you become like an outsider because of the information warfare going on. Now, it depends though, you know, it really depends on the ideas that are really being put forth. You know, whether they have backing of the NSA or the CIA. We should just start realizing by now that the CIA is working in the United States covertly. It's happening as we speak, and we should not be like looking at things like, you know, like thinking that, you know, they are not working covertly. They are working here in the United States domestically, even though it says on their thing that they're not supposed to be doing that. It's been shown that it is occurring. And and I said, you know, as I said, the ideas here that I'm presenting here in my presentation is that in 2026, you know, depending on civilian life, or like, you know, the way in which, you know, the society evolves, you know, from these things, really, I do see it has become something. But like in the sense that, you know, like I said, some of the things that we're being exposed to, you know, I don't know, like I'm thinking, but like, let me tell you, man, I'm gathering intelligence 24/7, and it's real. It's real. People are like they are aware of what's occurring and they're allowing it to occur. But like in the sense that they don't really understand the terms that we're talking about here when we are talking about militarization of, you know, society, you know, like a coup d'etat, like where the military takes over the government or the society that it belongs to and installs like a military based society, you know. And that's what we're looking at, that in the framework where everybody becomes like a part of a military society and is compartmentalized into that society, then what we're looking at here is that civilian life is no longer civilian life. It's really part of a regime that we are seeing taking place here in the United States of America. That is a regime that includes how the departments of the government are taking hold of our society, like Project Mockingbird, and all these projects that involve propaganda and persuasion, and the government here is here making movies, and we're supposed to see how we're not supposed to speak up against or hold anybody accountable in the government, even generals, and even generals or high-ranking officers, especially high-ranking officers. It is met with violence, but it really depends on the tier of violence that they respond to. If they, in reality, it's not that people have become, in a sense, they have become integrated into that system. They're pretty much integrated. Everybody's integrated, but in the sense that I'm talking about, that what I saw, or what I do seem to see, is that the way in which the people are being organized is it's very militaristic. It's not something. It's not using. It's not using the how you say. They're not using things that come out of their world, their livelihoods, that refer to threats of activism and things like that. What's occurring is that they're actually using tactical warfare that is from somewhere, that they have gathered information from the military and their projects, and these projects are not something that is revealed to normal day people. These are really top secret, classified information. And when you do see it, and you become the target of those people, then you get to see Project Mockingbird in a new light. You see the other situations occurring, like a psychological warfare, information warfare, cybernetic warfare. You basically see hybrid warfare occurring right in front of you. But if you're not integrated into the system, then you don't see it. You become part of the system. That is more or less, the military complex, military-industrial complex, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that they're really part of the military-industrial complex rather than their own society or democratic values. in which the democracy is what it is, in which we vote for our leaders. Instead, what's happening is the military is calculating who they pick to be their next boss, and depending on, really it depends on the military, in the sense that they will pick who they want to be their boss, basically. Or they will say, so and so failed on X missions, projects, and so forth, and we need to pick a new boss, and we're picking it from these candidates. So, which one do you think is plausible to continue these operations that we have in other countries or domestically? And that's what you see. But there's a lot of money in this industrial complex, and when we're referring to psychological warfare, like there's a lot of money and funding for those that are integrated into that military style society. And what we're looking at is like, in a sense, what we're looking at is that anybody can be considered dangerous if they do not hold those type of ideas, like, if they believe in democracy, then you become an enemy of the state, basically. If you believe in the values of the old, the old ways of government, that you become like an enemy, because that society has been wiped out and no longer exists today as part of the United States. That no longer exists. What exists here is the military taking control of Congress, taking control of the president, electing their own president for their own means. And what does end up happening is information warfare and psychological warfare and brainwashing. And like a lot of people here in the United States, they really think that they don't see that stuff, but that's because they're plugged in. They're plugged into that matrix. And until they get unplugged from it, then you will actually see what I'm talking about. And the only way you get unplugged from it is if you do something that is not if you do something that is different from what other people are doing, then they will try to that you will no longer be able to integrate into that society. And then when you look from outside in, then what you see is that it's being controlled by the military, the people, and that their own ideas of democracy only exist to a certain level, and in that it has not evolved, because they are really controlling the people here. And what is extremism is actually, a way to label anybody enemies without, the proper funding. I mean, there are extremists in government, politicians. They're getting paid millions of dollars from lobbyists. Like millions. And they're not considered enemies of the state. They never heard of such a thing. And in fact, the ones that orchestrated January 6th are still politicians that have their seat in Congress. And then neither being held accountable for their actions. Instead, we elect those very same people to positions of power. And that's what we're looking at, folks. What is going on here is very strange. When I look at it through a small lens, like me living in a small town, then yeah, I can see it. In fact, it happened to me just recently when I go to stores. There's this the psyops that's around me is in fact occurring wherever I go. Basically, like, not everywhere. I mean, I choose where I shop. Like, if I want to go to Goodman's department store and get $1 for like a shirt, I'll go to Goodman's department store, even though they got some trinkets, that has some psychological operations going on. But Goodman, I can't help but to know that you can get a shirt for $1 at Goodman's department store. That's a good deal. That's all I'm saying, folks. Sometimes you gotta barter. Sometimes you gotta barter and be like, fuck, I can go get that shirt for $1, but they got the psychological operations going on over there too. They got the little trinkets trying to brainwash my brain. In fact, you might just be like $1 for 12 eggs at Goodman's department store, and then you see the beer witch there shopping at Goodman's department store, and then you're just like, shit, man, look at these eggs. They're $1 for 12 eggs. $1 for 12 eggs, only at Goodman's department store. And then you see the beer witch, and you're like, shit, the beer witch. She came to Goodman's department store. Now I gotta barter. I said, am I gonna stay and shop at Goodman's department store, even though the beer witch is on the case trying to steal the beer? The enemy of the people. You gotta barter sometimes. You gotta make rational decisions when you're involved with the psychological operations. And then you see the beer witch, and she got like little trinkets there too. She's selling her little trinkets, and you're just looking at the beer witch and be like, oh my god, the beer witch has little trinkets over here. She's making money. Now I'm over here at Goodman's with the I only spent like $5. I already got me like 40 items for $5. Like, goddamn. I got my eggs, I got my beer, but the beer witch was there. I felt kind of nervous. Goodman's department store, where you get the stuff for $1, really cheap.